Good evening, ladies, gentlemen, and everybody else. Tonight, I'm here to throw numbers at you. A lot of numbers. The first one is just right there. I'll take this. Can you see the green spot? Cool, okay. So this is the subtitle. This is what the talk is going to be about. It's going to be slightly technical, but just slightly. I am Honza, my name is Honza, but everybody calls me Sasa for obvious reasons. I am in the real world out there. I am a father of two, husband of one. You see numbers coming up. And I consider myself extremely lucky to live just down the street, halfway between my favorite coffee place and my office here at signageOS. What a great time to be alive. signageOS. Let's proceed. What do we do here at signageOS? We created something wonderful for the world. We created a universal software platform for professional digital signage. By show of hands, can you please indicate who of you all thinks that digital signage is something about signing stuff? Thank you, thank you, thank you. I regret to inform you that's wrong assumption. Digital signage is about signs, big, beautiful signs, which coincidentally are digital. So it's just a fancy name for screens or displays. And we run software at displays. And you can stumble upon what we do when you order your Big Mac, or where you order your pumpkin spice latte, or where you wait for your physician appointment, or where you shop for groceries. We are everywhere globally. We actually run over 150,000 displays around the world, and these displays run on 8 different platforms. Say Samsung Tizen or LG WebOS, Windows, Linux, you name them. And I think it's not a conservative assumption when I say that tens of millions of people see what we do every day around the world. So the stakes are not really low when it comes to all these displays working properly. Now let's focus a little bit to what is the actual piece of software that runs inside the displays. We call these parts core apps. And core apps are something of a middleware, which is specifically tailored for each different platform. So there's a different core app for Tizen, different for WebOS, different for Linux. And are there any testers here? QA people? Great. So it may be more interesting to you if you are not testers. But you can just imagine that testing 8 different applications for this many devices is a little bit of a challenge. Like, it has to be. Well, testing this many apps is massive time sink. Before we started this initiative, this automation initiative, testing one release on one platform took hours, days. And when a developer made any change to the application, any of them, the same developer had to wait for days, maybe weeks, for results of the tests. So he had no idea if he broke anything, because just the feedback loop was very, very long. And the stakes, as I said, were high, because if a buggy release went to the production, tens of thousands of displays would go black or just play wrong content. And you can imagine that manual testing of this number of combinations of hardware and software and builds of the applications, it's not really scalable. You cannot scale.
Which year was that?
It was last year. Yeah, it's not ancient history yet. Okay, so to battle this challenge, we decided to create something that will automate as many of the steps as possible. So the developer would merge code in the afternoon, let's say, and in the morning, the results of all the tests that can be automated will be waiting for the developer with reports, graphs, whatever, and the next day can be spent fixing these bugs instead of waiting for the test results. This is actually a real-life example with some reduction of what the UI for the QA team looks like, because the QA team has to be happy with using this tool as well. You can see that we have two main modes of operation for this. You can either run tests like immediately on selected devices, or you can schedule the tests to run to night, because at night the devices are usually free, nobody is using them in the test lab, and the tests can run without any interruptions. So this is the vision. To turn this vision into something of a real life piece of software, we devised this, let's call it the conductor service. It's the central service that orchestrates all the parts of the testing process possible. In short, in the beginning, there is some cron job that initiates the whole thing, triggers the testing. Then the service gets the latest builds from GitLab, where our code resides. Then it also fetches the devices that can be tested from our own API. Through the same API, the service then normalizes the devices so that all the devices are in the same unified state in the beginning. That's very important. You don't want to test on something that is, broken from the very start. And then the service conducts more than 100 tests on each of these devices for each of the builds. So really thousands of tests for every run of these testing suites. In the end, the results are uploaded to the S3 bucket and the report is sent to Slack. That's quite simple. And these two parts you can see here. We have executive summary for management, for people who just want to see how the testing went. And you can see that we are pretty strict on ourselves, because this is orange, it's not brown. This is brown. Brown is bad. You see, brown is bad, and it's only 11% of failed tests. So, yeah, well, we have to perform really well to get green spots, like really well. Maybe you guessed, this emoji can turn to a poop emoji as well. Then the tests went really bad. And it actually could mean that the device was physically inaccessible. Somebody unplugged it, for instance, or the network was down. So we can see that from the tests as well and fix it eventually. So let's throw some more numbers at you. Let's go through 4 metrics: before state, after state. The testing time I already mentioned. A year ago, it was days per release. Now we can do it under 3 hours every night on all devices, all builds. Before, one tester could test one device at a time for these days. Now the tester can run 40 devices every night. 40, it's weirdly specific, but it's the number of devices in our lab. So it was 100, it would be 100. Feedback loop to developers shrank from weeks to less than 24 hours. This is a huge win. And probably the most important metric for our QA team, instead of doing pretty much all the time just repetitive checks of the same things all over again, our testers can now focus on high-value testing of edge cases, these special cases where one of our customers has this specific problem, and we can now focus on that, which is great. And the QA team, well, likes it, obviously. Okay, let's get a little bit more personal. By personal, I mean now I will present 3 takeaways which I personally took from this initiative, which is ongoing, by the way. It's not finished by any means. And the first takeaway is start simple. And in our case, it means we started with a monolithic service, which was fairly quick to create, and it delivered immense business value from the very start. We could start testing from the beginning. But it was successful, that's great, it worked, but this success put also a lot of pressure on the service and ourselves as creators, because with the success we wanted to test more devices, more test types. We wanted to integrate more APIs, more integrations into the service. So this first monolith, this first service, is not the goal for us. It's not the victory. It's just a blueprint for us to see how to turn this into more scalable, more resilient, more decoupled successor in the future, because this is just the start. And as a start, it works beautifully. Second takeaway, well, I already mentioned normalization. Every device we use has to start from the same clean slate. We don't want to test on something which is pre-spoiled by previous tests or somebody doing just stuff. So we have to make all devices behave the same in the beginning. And we also want to have all the tests, all the scripts that do the actual testing, the scripts that run on the devices, we want to have them idempotent. I know this is the word, it's not important, it's like, idempotent means it doesn't change the stuff it's running on just by running on it. So we can run the same scripts 10 times, 100 times, and the result is always the same, which is important in this case. Also, it makes the system resilient to network failures, because we can rerun the tests many times. Speaking of failures, I already mentioned somebody unplugging the device. You can imagine when device is unplugged, you cannot test on it. And one of the great things about this service is that it will immediately show you this device is inaccessible, this is inaccessible, please fix it, we cannot test on it, also automatically. The last takeaway is know and leverage your ecosystem. APIs, probably all of you know what API is, application programming interface. It's something you call programmatically to access some functions of a remote service. And GitLab is one of the services that has great API, which we use for this. We use our own API, internal API, for this service. There are many other APIs. You probably know services like Integromat or Make now or Zapier. All of these services are meant for automation, and they work exclusively by using APIs. So APIs are great, and if you have it, you have most of the work done already. All you have to do is orchestrate. We didn't have to create the tests for every device separately, because we already have a CLI tool for that. So we use the CLI tool. We have SDK, which we also used. So all of these things are probably already at your disposal if you want to do some automation like this. You just have to know them and use them. This is, for me personally, a huge lesson learned, because this was my first project at this company, and I did not know the tools that intimately, by far. So that led to delays, that led to backtracking, because I had to learn stuff on the go. But I learned, ultimately. So, you probably now know what the Nightwatch in the title meant. The Nightwatch is our nightly testing bot that does all the testing. The future for us, obviously, is automated. Well, the past is automated for the mankind too, from the early automation by slaves in ancient times, through production lines last century, to automation today, where there are factories without any workers, human workers at all. For us, automation in the future means expansion, growing from 40 devices to hundreds of devices. It means intelligently breaking down the monolith into some workers, some dispatchers, to something that can scale much better. We want to integrate more types of testing, performance testing, stress testing, security testing, so that we can do more while doing nothing, just pressing a button. We also want to create some self-healing capabilities that will allow the test to run even on devices which are not that great. There is some environmental problem, so we want the tests to be able to cope with that. But that's the future. Well, and that's also it. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, go on.
Mně se zdá 24 hodin pořád ještě jako docela dlouhých od releaseu.
Tak.
Zvažovali jste smoke testy?
Samozřejmě. Těch 24 hodin je worst case scenario v situaci, kdy developer tam pošle svůj kód minutu po tom, co testy začnou v noci. Obvykle to je mnohem míň. A dokonce je tam i ta možnost těch ad hoc testů, kdy on si může říct OK, poslal jsem tam kód a teď pouštím testy a za 2 hodiny vím.
No, proto by dávaly smysl ty smoke testy hnedka vlastně po releaseu, jakože je navázáno na ten release. Že by neběžela celá ta drahá sada, která třeba zabere hodiny, ale běželo by pár testů, které by ověřily, že tam není jako žádný major problém.
Ano, to je přesně něco, co na roadmapě. Zatím jsme v takovém tom stavu, pouštíme všechno, ale náš QA tým, který je tady rozeset mezi vámi a sbírá informace, tak tohle samozřejmě má v plánu. Víc typů testů na různé situace a tak. To automaticky prostě posouvat dál.
Děkuju.
Zuzana?
Mě by zajímalo, kolik procent testů musí failnout, aby tam byla ta poop icon.
Já si myslím, že 15. Jako 15% je hodně, to znamená, že už jako toho fakt spousta nefunguje a pak je tam poop icon, ano.
Já bych se chtěl zeptat, jsem bývalý tester, teď vývojář. Jak řešíte to, aby psali testy i vývojáři, to znamená testy, nevím, jestli to bylo slyšet všechno, a jak řešíte, aby ta testovací pyramida byla efektivně postavená, to znamená, aby testy, co dělají testři, neduplikovali testy na nižších úrovních?
Na tu první část odpovědět umím. Code reviews. Ta první úroveň je to, že my chceme nejen automaticky během pipeliny v CIčku, v GitLabu, ale i tím, že na to kouká člověk a řekne, dopiš testy. Jo, máme to automatizováno, máme prostě coverage měření, který když spadne pod nějaké procento, tak se ani nezbuildí ten build a je nutno doplnit testy.
A co se týká těch testů a kódu samotného, máte stejný stack, máte stejný jazyk, v kterém píšete testy a ten kód samotný té aplikace?
Ano.
Jo, OK. To znamená, že čistě teoreticky vývojáři by byli schopni dělat review testům a naopak?
Ano.
Na unit testy třeba?
Ano.
Okay.
Integrační testy tady padlo. Většinou jsou jako, je otrava je trochu psát. Jak to funguje tady? Jako je pro vývojáře těžké psát integrační testy? Vzhledem k tomu, že máte třeba blíž k hardwareu a tak dále.
Je.
Rychlý krátký dotaz. Proč máte QA tým oddělený od developerů?
Nad tím jsem nikdy nepřemýšlel, protože QA tým testuje, řekněme, reálném světě, to znamená, oni sedí u těch deviceů, a to jsou právě ty edge cases, co neotestují ty automatické testy, a testují, protože ne všechno odchytí automatický test. To, že obrazovka se stlumí o 10%, třeba když má, to neodhadne test. To, že video hraje plynule, zase to neodhalí ten automatický test. Na to jsou tady ty QA lidi, kteří testují přímo jako před těma obrazovkama.
Já jsem se neptal na to, proč to netestují developři. Já jsem se ptal na to, proč QA lidi jsou součástí QA týmu a ne jednoho týmu z developery.
Výborně. Každý tým, který je tady fullstackový v rámci firmy, tak má svého QA člověka. Takže jsou rozmístěni QA lidi mezi developery. Ale jako ty profese jsou oddělené. Protože je tam trošku jiná náplň práce.
A mě by ještě zajímalo, jak to v kontextu toho, jak dlouho je signageOS na trhu, tak jestli před touhletou automatizací, jestli tomu předcházela nějaká geneze, nějaký předchozí automatizace, nebo jak je možné, že jste se k takovýmhle kroku dostali až v loňském roce?
To je skvělý dotaz. Předcházela tomu tvorba testovacího frameworku, na kterém to vlastně celé běží, ty testy jako takové. To, co spouští ten náš CLI tool, tak je testovací framework, který potom provozuje testy na těch devicech vlastních. A to vlastně vzniklo už v minulých letech a potom přišla tato potřeba, OK, pojďme teda ten feedback loop zkrátit z těch týdnů, protože už to začíná být neúnosné s tím, jak biznis roste, a vytvořit nějakou orchestraci, která ten framework začne reálně používat. Takže to byla ta geneze a teď jsme teda ve stavu, kdy už je používána a bude se jenom vylepšovat a zefektivňovat.
Honzo, díky signageOS.
Díky moc.